My fellow TRINBAGonians, have you been awakened as yet? Or does the Matrix still have you? You may ask the question, what is the Matrix? The Matrix is a dream world created for your mind. A dream world created to hide you from the reality of how things really are. In the movie itself, that dream world was created by an enemy that the people themselves chose and put their trust in. An enemy that the people created to run their lives, to make it easier, more prosperous and comfortable. But in the end, the people were turned into batteries to fuel the power of the machines. And that's all we are to these people, my fellow TRINBAGonians. Batteries, fuel for their greed and selfishness. All we are to them is collateral damage. The end justifies the means, so to speak. TRINBAGonians, awake. TRINBAGO, are you awake as yet? TRINBAGO, do you want to be awakened? Or are you one of those who understands how far the rabbit hole goes, but denies the reality? And like that one guy in the movie, who proclaimed ignorance is bliss. He saw the reality, but instead of fighting to change things, he chose to make a deal with the enemy, to put him back to sleep, so that he could go on pretending everything is okay. And that's like some of us. We don't want to face the reality that our government is corrupt, the reality that our government bullies us and treats us more like slaves on a plantation and not as fellow citizens. Give them just enough to eat and to work, make their lives bitter so that in their struggles they don't have time to focus, to pay attention to the reality that we are plundering and looting them and enriching ourselves. Keep them hungry. Don't fix the crime problem. Keep them scared. A slave is so hungry. And after a long day, hours of work, the slave is so tired. He don't have time to pay attention to terms like the Revenue Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, terms like the Procurement Act, the Matrix at its best. The normal struggling TRINBAGonian don't have time to pay attention to what goes on in the parliament and the laws that are put in place to enslave us even more, as the enemies that we have put in charge become more enriched. Remember on my first video, I gave a story of an experience I had with a clerk who was working in the government for years and worked under different government administration, UNC, PNM. And she told me one of the things that she have learned after working all those years with those people, as she put it, even though you are wrong, never admit that you are wrong. Isn't it amazing, my fellow TRINBAGonians, how instead, after working with all these government administration and under different ministerial authorities, she did not learn humility. She did not learn from them love for the citizens or love for the country. She did not learn morality, truthfulness. Instead, what she saw in them was pride, arrogance, and a people seasoned in corruption and deception. As you can see, I'm speaking to you against the backdrop of a logo. It says the Citizens Union of Trinidad and Tobago. The Citizens Union of Trinidad and Tobago. Its leader is Mr. Philip Edward Alexander. Mr. Philip Edward Alexander is also the political leader of the Progressive Empowerment Party. I was in the matrix, my fellow Trinbagonians. But because of Mr. Philip Edward Alexander and his organization, I have been awakened. And I remember, while in the matrix, I would make excuses for my oppressors. Because as I said, we as a people oftentimes see ourselves through the eyes of slavery. So anytime one of our own reaches a place of prominence, we feel a sense of pride, a sense of security. So even when they are striking us with the whip, we don't want to believe it. Rowley said he would not close down Petrotrin. If you were closing your fridge door while he said it, he repeated, we are not closing down Petrotrin. And when Petrotrin was closed down, there I was, making excuses in my mind. Such is the matrix, my fellow Trinbagonians. I was making excuses mentally for his lies. Rowley said the property tax is done away with. There would be no property tax. Now his government is pushing for the property tax. Rowley said no mandatory vaccination. Now his government is pushing mandatory vaccination. My fellow citizens, are some of you like me? Are most of you like me before I was awakened? Are you making excuses? My fellow citizens, but you see, when you have been awakened from the matrix, a lie becomes a lie. $1.4 million people in our country, $3 trillion. Someone did the maths. They said each Trinbagonian should have had at least $4 million with money left over. If that does not awaken you, then nothing will. This is not a Negro thing. This is not an Indian thing. This is a Trinbago thing. Remember, one of the strategies of the matrix is tribal politics. Keep them divided, scared of each other, and constantly fighting against each other. Batteries feeding their greed and selfishness. Both sides, my fellow citizens, if you notice, when you look at our political parties, on the both sides, there are Negroes, there are Indians, every creed and race of this great nation of ours. They are not concerned about race up there, but they feed us tribal politics to keep us divided while they focus on looting our great nation, looting the treasury. They are not concerned about race. They are concerned about power, money, and enriching themselves. Because of my love for this nation, I try to make it my job to awaken my people, to show us as a nation that we can be much more, that with the right governance we can fly, and that we don't have to be slaves to the system, but that with the right governance, the system can work for us. That's why I encourage you, my fellow citizens, my fellow Trinbagonians, to put your support behind Mr. Philip Edward Alexander and the Progressive Empowerment Party for a better and a more prosperous Trinidad and Tobago. My fellow Trinbagonians, take some time and listen to Mr. Philip Edward Alexander. He has a lot of videos out there. Take some time and listen to what he has to say. Open your hearts and open your minds. I've heard at times from a lot of people he's too brash, my fellow Trinbagonians. But I'll give you a little story A woman heard him speak, and she said, just how Mr. Philip Edward Alexander gets on, she says, my husband behaves just like that at home. And she said something very profound. She said, it's only when you understand what is going on that you react like that. And my fellow citizens, that is the problem. You see, a lot of us are still in the matrix. Now at times, the reality hits us. The reality of how things really are. Like when you try to get a government service. When you're driving on the road and you see the amount of potholes, when you see our broken infrastructure, Trinidadians cuss and get on. When you go to the hospital and you can't get something done and the service is like crap. There are certain times that the matrix shows itself. The reality of how things are shows itself. But as I said, we deny it and we make excuses. It's time to be red-pilled, my fellow Trinbagonians. So once again, I implore you, as someone aged, who have grown and knows life and have some basic and general experiences in life. And I believe that I've come to a place where I know how to make a good choice and who to put my support behind. Based on life experience, I continue to encourage my fellow Trinbagonians to put their support behind the Progressive Empowerment Party. Put your support behind the Citizens Union of Trinidad and Tobago and its leader, Mr. Philip Edward Alexander, for a better and more prosperous Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for listening to me once again, my fellow citizens, and may God bless you.